All right. So in this video, I will be reviewing a review of a review video from bloodsteal. I love how YouTube today, this is the kind of content that I'm making. I am literally making a review video of a review video of a review video. So, reviewception, right? Yeah, a little funny. Anyways, we'll listen to what he has to say, his response. So yeah. Anyways, let's get to it.
Alright, what's up guys? So today I'm gonna react to Blaze. He made a video 1.5 years ago where he reviews my...
Wow. Okay, I gotta hold on. That's a long time ago. 1.5 years ago. That's a shocker. That's a shocker. Whoa. That's a long time ago.
what I eat in a day. That I did in autumn 2024. And yeah, I already watched it 1.5 years ago, but I thought of making a proper response video to it now. I know it's a little bit late, it's 1.5 years later, but yeah, let's just go for it. What's up guys, Tord here, and
Damn, wait, hold on. Look at his camera quality. His camera quality is so nice. Like, look at that. Look at that. That looks so nice. Why does this look so pixelated? Oh my god. I think both of ours look like really pixelated. It looks really bad. Oh my god. Both of our... Ugh. My camera quality looks terrible here. It looks absolutely terrible. Okay. Anyways, that's just... Besides the pixelated... I've been seeing a lot of very low resolution things recently, so it sort of bugs me. But that's irrelevant.
oh my god, my beard was so bad there. I should have shaved the one on the neck, the line a little bit more up, because it looks so stupid. Oh my god,
Hey, okay, but like I don't really shave. Like, you can sort of see my beard, right? I mean, I don't really, even if it's at the neck area, I don't really care too much about it. But it does make you look a little more like groomed. Yeah, I guess so. But
it was the first time I saved like my beard out, so I didn't know how to shave it properly. But oh my god, it looked so stupid. Welcome to my what I eat in a day video. Now this video has been requested so many times. It's been a long time since my last one. It's kind of hard finding good quality food in the area I am in right now, so this is not perfect what I eat in a day video, what I would normally eat. And there I said it. It was not a perfect what I eat in a day. I didn't eat optimally. Yeah, we'll see what he says, but yeah,
even if he didn't eat optimally, I will say before anything goes further, I will say his diet as a general rule is like a million times better than what I would consider most people to have, right? So like if you're adding in a lot of extra carbohydrate, then I obviously don't like that. Obviously, I'm not a fan of fructose. I've already said that in the past. That's why I'm against honey. I'm pretty sure if I remember correctly, he had honey. But that's basically the main thing, if I remember correctly, that he had, which I was like pretty much against. And I think he had some sort of like a drink, like a wine or something. I can't remember what it was exactly. But I would say once again, even though it wasn't ideal, it's still much better than most other people's, like realistically. I mean, most people I reviewed, if you remember the review video, I basically gave people the cool sunglasses for if they were good. I would consider on the good side, and then if I gave them the not cool sunglasses, which is no sunglasses if they weren't on that side, usually, right? So, anyways.
openly admit that it wasn't optimal at all. I was eating a lot of pasteurized dairy because I was so fat deficient, and the meat I was eating was too lean.
Ooh, okay, yeah, that can definitely affect.
This is temporary and pretty situational, as I am visiting my grandma in Germany right now. Since you guys were so curious, I guess I'll just show you. This is the first meal of today. I got some raw beef here from my local butcher. I just gotta say, the meat is very lean. It's too lean. I kind of regret paying that much money for it. It was unbelievably expensive for what you get. It was so dumb because last summer now, like 1 year after this video, I got a better food sourcing. I had blood, liver, brain.
Ooh, blood. Blood, that's one of my favorite ones. That is one of my favorite ones. I'm going to say kudos to that one. I'm a blood addict. If any time I can get blood, I love blood. It's rare. It's very rare. It's hard to get from my personal experience, but when you can get it, fucking love it. It's amazing. Sort of makes me think of just like humans are vampires. that's sort of why I said in the past I think humans have like parasitic relationships with the cattle, or like the cows that what they have, right? So
All from pork, good quality pork, and I ate grounded pork meat that was 30% fat, so it was more fat, which is better. Sure.
Okay. So in terms of beef, I think it's one of the good ones for min-maxing. By min-maxing, I basically mean like optimal health. I think basically you want to be eating ruminants, preferably. If you want to like really min-max health, and that.
I just gotta say, why do we have to add this maxing to everything we do? If we go in the sun, we're sun maxing. If we're eating raw meat, we are raw meat maxing. Like, why do we have to say all of this? It's such a brain rot word.
it is a very annoying word, but the truth is, as a video gamer, I'm gonna say right now, probably doesn't play video games, but if he does, there's a very common thing in video games, especially for that matter, MMOs. As you were brought up in the time of World of Warcraft and certain even League of Legends, actually, now that I think about it, because you say your max build, right? So yeah, but anyways, it's like you have like best in slot. You'll say like best in slot. You'll say like item, your max item level. So it's a pretty video game term, in my opinion. I would say it seems to come from video games. I don't necessarily know if it comes from somewhere else, but I'm pretty sure it comes from video games. The maxing has basically been added to everything, but that's also part of linguistics, actually. I don't really want to talk about linguistics, but I guess I could talk a little bit about it. It's a little weird if you ever do learn about linguistics. Language changes all the time, and you can see this actually, for that matter, in the English language very often. There's many examples of this, but probably some of the best examples, for instance, are using acronyms. And a lot of things that used to be said are no longer said. And this often sometimes is actually because of technology advances. So, for instance, you won't necessarily have to deal with certain items anymore. And because you don't have to deal with that item anymore, you don't reference, you don't have this old English reference, which is a pretty common thing. There's also a thing of separating language based on whether or not the person was pretty much from a more poverty ridden area, so basically the poor people, or where they were the noble class, which is like the rich people, right? Anglo-Saxons versus Germanic sort of language. So for instance, like when you say shit, right, that's scheisse, it's like German, right? And if you say beef, right? You're basically Vsauce made a really good video on this, actually. So if you're interested, you can go check out that video that Vsauce made on language and something related to that. Basically how swear words work. That's part of linguistics. But also another part of linguistics is basically that language always evolves. Always evolves. So it sort of sounds weird, but the truth is, in the future, it's only going to get worse if it sounds weird to you right now. Because people are going to simplify words more and more and try to make language usually more concise and consolidated more and more. That seems to be like the general trend of linguistics and just language and how language works. And one of the best examples of that, actually, is if you look at a lot of words today, especially on the internet, that are used, You will actually use an acronym, and not only will you use an acronym, you will even short down or cut out words completely. So, for instance, one of the best examples I've found of this is people will say, I'm going to eat now. They don't say, I'm going to sleep now. They're going to say, I'm going to eat now. So this is a really interesting thing with language and linguistics. I can understand his point, his perspective when it's maxing. I can understand it's like a rot term. I understand his perspective. But honestly, the truth is it's only going to get worse because language only continues to evolve. And actually, the internet, for that matter, is probably the best contributor to this. The internet makes acronyms even more prevalent and makes language simplifying so much easier because of how easy communication has become. It's sort of weird. In-person communication has died more, and online communication has obviously become more prevalent and much more common. Right? It's a really it's a weird dynamic. I never thought I would talk about linguistics in a bloodsteal video. But there you go. I hope you learned something valuable.
To do with lower deuterium and lower polyunsaturated fat content, higher saturated fat content. So that's one of the big things. So okay, I would say that's pretty good.
And this is raw goat's milk from a goat farm that's 30 minutes away from here by bike, which is...
I like it. I don't think it's that bad. Once again, it's I think this is dairy is more so a thing if you're developing. If you're not developing, I don't think that dairy is a necessity if you want to be min-maxing. But that's just a quick thing.
So in terms of milk, I'm a little iffy on milk. I don't think it's a bad thing when you're a kid, during adolescence while you're still growing.
Okay, I said the same thing there.
Because it's a pretty good thing when it comes to basically increasing your growth factor, the amount of growth factors that you're giving yourself. So like you can definitely grow a hell of a lot more. But I don't necessarily think this is good after adolescence. And it's not really that big of a deal technically. You're not spiking insulin that much, but you are causing extra glycation because galactose will cause glycation. It's sort of like a double-ended glycation instead of a single-ended.
And I completely agree with him. Milk is not necessary after you're done growing. Maybe it is necessary if you're still underweight in your adult years and you want to gain weight. It's a good way. It's a good tool. Raw dairy is a good tool to use to gain weight quick and to grow. That's pretty much it. And also, it's a good way of getting enough raw fat in you. Raw fat is not that easy to get nowadays, and raw dairy can be used as a tool to get extra raw fat in you. However, it's not optimal to just drink raw milk because it has all the vitamins, it has every nutrient, but it will age you quite a lot because of the growth hormones. But obviously it's better to eat that than nothing, than to just eat lean meat all day, because you will be so adrenalized and starved. Because if you eat lean meat, you're not getting any raw fat almost. It's little to none.
So, okay, yeah, I understand his perspective. He's talking about because he was basically limited at that time, from what I understand. So, yeah, he's right. He said basically he had lean meat, right? I'm not necessarily a super big fan of lean meat sort of stuff. I mean, you could like eat lean. Honestly, actually, here, the best. Don't even take my word for it. Just eat kangaroo as an example. Try kangaroo out. Try buffalo out or bison. See how that tastes. I'm gonna let you know right now. That's fucking lean. That's really fucking lean. So, yeah, that's extremely, extremely lean meat. I personally, once again, not a super big fan of lean meat. And not just that. It's more so the taste as well. I just don't necessarily like the taste so much of it all the time. Sometimes it could have a little bit of it and it'll taste good, but usually it dies pretty quick. And I think that's because the It's basically just really low fat content, and yeah.
And you will age quite a lot when it comes to the stress and being adrenalized all the time because you're not getting sufficient amounts of fat.
Usually when you eat, like for instance, meat, you'll have some excess amino acids. Those get converted into glucose, and then that can cause glycation, right? I don't necessarily think that's the best. I personally am not really that big of a fan of raising insulin. I do think that it possibly does sometimes need to be raised, but I don't.
Exactly. If you're trying to gain weight, that's the best way to do it. It's to raise your insulin. That's the best way to gain weight. And if you are underweight, that is definitely the way to go. Eating raw dairy, it's super good tool for weight gain and getting extra body fat on you. And body fat protects you from pollution. It calms your nerves. There's just so much benefits of gaining weight. Healthy weight, not junk food weight, not seed oil weight.
What he most likely means, what he's most likely trying to say is he's trying to say it's not healthy to get visceral fat. That's just like a specific terminology, but yeah, that's most likely what he's saying right now.
Talking about raw fat.
I definitely do not like raising it by much. I completely avoid trying to ever raise it. So
yes, for longevity, that is definitely the best. However, like I said, people in the tribes had a lot of raw fat. The Maasai always mixed their blood with milk. The people of South Sudan said that they go without food, they just drink milk for years. Sometimes reading a piece of paper is not really the answer. You also have to observe.
oh,
Thank you for saying that. That's a very I love that he said that. I love that he said that. Wow. I don't hear many other people say, hey, you know what? Maybe the scientific evidence isn't enough. Thank you, Jesus fucking Christ. Oh man, I made a video out of that recently because I was sort of upset with science today. Basically, at this point, that I sort of look at it and I'm like, I don't necessarily like science as much. I mean, sure, I might reference science every now and then, but anecdotal evidence, in my opinion, is definitely more helpful. I would say I think the reason why the Maasai or a lot of these other tribes, for instance, they might just go with milk, is because in their specific case, like if they are exposing themselves, this is a big one actually, if they're exposing themselves to the sun for a high period of time, or if they're exposing themselves, they're basically working out a lot, right? You're not necessarily, when in nature as a general rule, humans are basically omnivores. I mean, obviously we lean towards being carnivore, right? But if given the opportunity, if we really are forced, like if push comes to shove, we're most likely going to be eating something in order to sustain ourselves. Even if it's not necessarily meat, we will eat something. It doesn't necessarily mean it's going to be healthy either, but we will eat something to sustain ourselves. So I think that's a kind of a little bit of an important point to mention. So I don't fully always think tribes are the best example of this, personally, but I do think they're a good... I think history as a general rule is just a good teacher. It's like a good way to show the initial path that humans went down and what humans did before, right? It's part of my relationship playlist, actually, and it's why I say the things I do about relationships, is because I look at relationships basically before love and marriage got involved. Ludus and Eros got involved, right? Ludus and Eros was never supposed to be mixed with pragma and philia. Love never existed in marriage before. So this is sort of one of my like indicators of using history to show where humans are going and seeing whether or not we are able to deviate off of that path. Like, just because humans, by the way, went down a certain path before, it doesn't necessarily mean it's the healthiest, right? So, or it's the best thing to do, right? So that's why I sort of always look at like history as a good reference. And it's like, well, if it simply put, if it's not working now, then it might be better to revert back to history and start doing what happened back in history. Maybe we can work our way from there, but I think the best way to do it is to revert back to history sometimes, especially if what you're doing right now doesn't work. That's a small little thing I'll say about history. I think it is important to use history, definitely.
This, on the other hand, this will definitely raise insulin, and this is because lactose will get converted into galactose and glucose, and I don't think that's a good thing. Yeah, but galactose will definitely has some glycation potential, and I think the glycation potential is probably similar to that of glucose, and that's just because of the ring structure. Literally, it's just it's a 6-carbon ring, except it's like a different configuration of glucose. I'm not gonna show that, but hopefully you can sort of see what I mean in terms of why it causes glycation. I think it has to do with the fact that
Honestly, if you're into becoming more healthier, you don't really need to know all of what he knows. No animal thinks about how much content there is in food. They just eat it. They do whatever their body tells them to do. They follow their instincts and they thrive, live long lives, healthy lives. That's pretty much all you need. You don't have to worry about how much micrograms of retinol there is in raw liver or any of this. You just eat whatever you crave.
I will say this partial. I think there is definitely some truth to this. I don't think it's fully true what he's saying, but I do definitely think there's some truth to this. Like humans, for instance, they will know for the most part, anyways, what they're lacking. So, for instance, like if you actually a really good example is like babies. They know this really, really, really damn well. Babies who are vitamin D deficient, as an example, are just addicted to cod liver oil, and they will just gulp tons of that stuff down. And it's a really interesting thing. So I think there is some truth to this, but at the same time, I think the other opposite end of it is the fact that even though the human body has its taste receptors are very good at telling it what it does and it doesn't need, I think it also can easily get manipulated. And this is where like fructose comes into play, basically, and sugar, right? I don't necessarily think sugar is healthy whatsoever. I don't brush my teeth at all, once again. And I think the reason why I am able to not brush my teeth whatsoever and have no problems with my teeth, yeah, right. If you can't see my teeth already. And the reason why I have no problems with my teeth is simply put because I don't have any sugar and I don't have any starches. I don't expose my mouth microbiome to any of that. So because of that, I don't have any cavities. I haven't had a cavity ever since then. I mean, I haven't brushed my teeth for like 4 years or whatever. I stopped counting at this point. It's over 1,000 days. I know that with certainty. But yeah, I think it's pretty important to know. And I will actually say, I actually, by the way, sort of do agree with him on one point. He says, you don't have to know all of this stuff in order to basically eat healthy. I think there is definitely a lot of truth to that. I would say it's like 99% true. I would say there's like a 1% where it's like it's not always true. And in that instance, I specifically am talking about fructose because and just sugar sort of things that are very appetizing to humans but aren't actually necessarily healthy. And the only reason that they are most likely appetizing to humans and are I guess you could say addictive and they wish to be eaten more, basically sugar in this case, is because the amount of visceral fat which it can store, the amount of fat which it can store basically, and the energy which you are getting out of it is very, very high. But the only problem is that the energy is very, very high, but it's not actually usable unless you're in a fasted state, right? It's sort of like a hibernation tool, actually. Unless you burn it. I mean, you can actually burn it. Technically speaking, you are able to burn it pretty easily if you are full carnivore. But yeah, or if you're basically just carnivore, you will burn it a lot easier. You just need hormones instead of lipase to work. But yeah, I will say that he is actually very right on a lot of the stuff. You don't necessarily need to know a lot of the details about this stuff. It's not necessary. It really isn't. In my personal opinion, you don't really need to know too much of the details behind it. You just need to know some general basics. Actually, you don't even need to know general basics. The less you know, obviously, the less you're going to be able to min-max again. I know he hates that term, but I mean that's basically what I have to say. It's all about min-maxing, and in the end of the day, it's min-maxing anything. It doesn't necessarily have to be health. It could also be cognitive function. It could be muscle function. There's a lot of possible things it could be. So yeah.
Experiment. with different raw foods, and then your body knows best what it wants. That's pretty much it. You don't need to try to remember how much this food raises insulin and the glycation and the vitamin content. Really, you just eat whatever you crave, because your body will tell you if you're deficient in something.
It's basically hexagonal. It's a hexagonal ring. Those usually do seem to have more stable structures.
You see that my camera's adjusting. It's terrible. My God, this camera's $50 compared to my other freaking $500 camera. It's a million times better. Crazy, ridiculous, whatever. Sorry, that's something I had to deal with in the video production thing while I was doing it early on.
Usually, though, if it's fructose, for instance, fructose is a 5-membered ring, like furan sort of ring, then those are much. I think the reason why they're so much more prone to glycation has to do with the fact that they're 5-membered ring. Wow, I'm getting really complicated. I shouldn't do that. But hopefully you can sort of see what I mean. So I'm not necessarily a big fan of it, but I don't think it's necessarily too bad.
Which is pretty cool. And this is homemade apple juice my grandma makes. She has apples in her garden, so she makes her own apple juice, which is super nice.
Yeah, I'm definitely not a fan of apple juice at all.
And that is the problem with these carnivore. They're not even real carnivores. No carnivores cooks their food or eats or restricts themselves. And
Well, I don't necessarily restrict myself. I just don't. I don't want to taste apple juice, or I don't want to have any sugar again. I mean, I had it before. I threw up, right? So for me, it's a quick indicator of like, oh, it's time to run. I tried to introduce things back when I was full carnivore. Like I basically stayed full carnivore, and then I tried to introduce something back in, and my stomach, it just like reacted like crazy, and I threw up. And I looked at that, and I was like, I mean, I'm not gonna, like, why have apple juice, or it wasn't apple juice at that time, actually. It was what was it? I think I tried chocolate. I tried some other fruit. I didn't even like the taste of fruit, which was very interesting as well. I like spit it out. I was like, ugh, this is too sweet. So I found that interesting. Yeah. Oh,
it's gonna react bad to the apple juice, because to them carnivore is like a religion. Carbs are the enemies, sugar is the enemy. They're animals that eat berries. Wolves eat berries when they can. It's seasonal. This was filmed in autumn when apples are ready to be eaten.
Well, yeah, okay, but what he's saying is, it's, to me, that's just the argument of basically opportunistic. And it's like, I'm not necessarily saying opportunistic isn't a thing. Like, it does exist in nature, but in terms of min-maxing, like, health, I don't necessarily think there's any benefit to, just because it's natural doesn't necessarily mean it's healthy. Like, that's the classic natural fallacy that I hear, right? I'm not a big fan, and I'm not, by the way, like, even though I am carnivore, it doesn't necessarily mean that I am only in favor of using anything that is carnivore related. Like, I am in favor of some things that are not necessarily really carnivore related. In fact, they're like bacterial. They're like weird. It's called cerule, as an example, like algae or something, right? So it's not. Once again, I am pro meat. I am 100% pro meat, but I am not pro apple juice, because and not only am I not pro apple juice because of the fructose reason, I'm also not pro apple juice or apple anything, or just fruit as a general rule, because any of the fruit or any of the vegetables that you see currently today, they never existed in nature before. This is a super recent thing ever since the advent of the agricultural revolution. They're basically all genetically modified. And you could just point out, and you could actually point out my previous argument, which I just said, which I think he sort of has a little bit of, which is the natural fallacy, right? And I don't necessarily, I think you can point that out of my argument and say, oh, well, Blaze, you're just saying that because they didn't exist in nature back then, that's part of the natural fallacy. So then your argument's part of the natural fallacy as well, right? And I'd say not quite, because the levels of fructose and the levels of glucose and all these other things, all the nutrients, I guess you could say, that used to be in maybe like an avocado or an apple, which, by the way, if you look at like an apple before versus an apple now, it's not even comparable. I mean, it is insane. It is ridiculous how small and how big apples used to be, how small they used to be, and how big they are now, right? And I would say actually that isn't even my strongest argument against fruit. My actual strongest argument towards fruit and towards starches, for that matter, and just sugar as a general rule, is my teeth. I use the way I live my lifestyle right now as a very, very good indicator. If I am able to somehow not have to brush my teeth at all, I don't even touch my teeth, and they are perfectly fine. I have no problems whatsoever with my teeth. I have no cavities, and I haven't had a cavity since. And not only that, I even went to the dentist to ask them, and they also said I don't have any problems. That, to me, is a clear indicator that my diet must be working. It has to be working. Because if I'm able to somehow defy the previous medical system, which is basically saying I need to brush my teeth in order to keep them functioning, and I'm able to beat that, I think that's a really big indicator I'm doing something right. Because I'd say 99.999% of people today, they have to brush their teeth in order to avoid tooth decay. And I don't have that same problem. So that's my personal strongest argument against fructose in this whole thing. It's actually not even the scientific arguments. It's my own personal experience. Because I'll be honest, once again, he was right. He's right on one thing. You don't necessarily need science. You don't need to read a paper in order to tell you. I think sometimes the best thing you can do is just anecdotal information.
I'm not drinking this every single day. I'm just drinking it seasonally or eating apples seasonally. You should always eat things seasonally. That's the most natural way of eating. When you hunt an animal and you kill it straight away and drink the blood and eat the liver, there's glycogen in the meat. It's literally sugar in the meat. It's the same as bodybuilders. Before they go to a workout, they eat a lot of carbs because it makes their muscles get pumped up, and it's the same with animals. We're buying meat from the butcher that has been laying there for a while, and of course the glycogen is gone. Yeah, basically what I'm saying is that the carnivore diet people craving sugar so much because they're always making these sugar imitations like bread, carnivore bread,
I do not have carnivore bread. I think I sort of already showed what I eat in a day, right? It was basically it was just meat. It was just different cuts of meat, pretty much. I was like salmon, sardines. I had tuna. I love eel, by the way. Oh, eel is so good. Octopus is pretty good. I like beef, certain cuts of beef usually. Skirt steak preferably I do like. Picanha can also be pretty good. Wagyu, any form of Wagyu usually for the most part tastes pretty decent, I would say, as well. I mean, as a general rule, I really like meat. I don't necessarily do these like sugar imitations that I'm aware of. I don't make like carnivore pancakes or something like that. I don't make this stuff. I have egg yolks. I have like egg yolks in like a 4 egg yolks together. Just like put it in a cup. I like showed it in my what I eat in a day video. Anyways.
For cookies, all of this.
Okay. I know who he's talking about. No. That's Steak and Butter Gal. That's not me. All right. I'm going to say this right now. I don't like that person. That person is suspicious to me. That person is really, really suspicious to me. The way they act is really weird. It doesn't like add up to me. It doesn't feel authentic. Maybe that's the word. It irks me. It irks me out, you know? I hope I'm not the only one irked out by her. I swear to God, it's weird. It's weird.
Nonsense. Just eat whatever you crave. Eat raw honey, eat fruit that are in season, drink raw milk for the sugar. If you don't have access to fresh slaughtered meat or blood or organs which have sugar in them, then you have to eat that. It's part of the human diet.
Oh, I'm a fan of no juice. I'm a fan of water. That's that's basically it. I don't necessarily think.
Yeah, spring water or normal tap water.
I hate tap water. I'll see.
I can assume he means spring water because spring water is okay. It has minerals. It can hydrate you, but plain, straight up plain water, it dehydrates you. This is why you have to drink it so much, because you just pee all the minerals out. Honestly, you don't even need water. Water is not optimal at all.
This guy talks a lot like Goatus. I'm gonna say right now. I see a lot of Goatus in this guy. This guy is talking a lot like Goatus. A lot of very similar points. I don't necessarily agree with once again, but I hear a lot of Goatus points. He says like you don't need water, right? And then you look at it and you go, well, if he's making this natural argument of like, oh, we did these things back in nature. Well, if you look at animals, a lot of animals, they will regularly try to get to sources of water in order to hydrate themselves. So it's like, I think the reason why you have to drink a lot more tap water, most likely, is because it's probably the content, not just the minerals, but also the extra shit in tap water isn't helpful. Like I think it was fluoride, if I remember correctly. It's sort of weird. Like, why would they put that in water? I think I made a video on that actually. It's not good. It's not good. You don't want to drink that stuff.
What's optimal is blood. Blood, milk, fruit juices. The people in the Philippines chilled all day drinking coconut water and eating raw fish. They seem to be doing fine, living over 120 easily.
Doing any sort of this kind of stuff like apple juice, I don't think that's too good. It's really concentrated sugar that is high fructose content, high glucose content. You're also removing the fiber in the process, or most likely anyways. If you're keeping the fiber, in this case, technically speaking, it's actually good because you want to hinder the absorption of the glucose and the fructose and all this other stuff. You want to be hindering all of these plant phytotoxins. You want to be hindering. So in that,
yeah, but you're not supposed to hinder the sugar. That's why you drink it. Yeah,
that specific sense, fiber is helpful. But as a general rule, I'm completely against juices. I have a video on that. Actually, I don't even know if that video is humans need water, and then it says like why humans need water as the thumbnail, and then the title I think is like why you should stop drinking coffee, tea, juice, and soda. That video explains it a whole lot more.
Well, yeah, I agree with that, but why do you need to drink water? Just you're lubricated and hydrated if you eat a lot of raw fats, blood, milk.
I will explain it.
Well, I'm not so sure about that. Okay, this is a very interesting thing. I'm not entirely sure about this, but I will say it's one of my speculations on the thought of water. So I talk a little bit about this in my tissue remodeling the video that I made. I don't necessarily talk about it too much, but part of the human body, what the human body does is it will generate metabolic off products. And these aren't necessarily always healthy, by the way. You could do this when you're exercising. I don't recommend exercising. You can do this when you're playing video games and you're focusing very hard, which basically trains your brain. I personally recommend that one. Personally, I think that one's better. And I look at it and I go, okay, why exactly would I, for instance, be more thirsty when I'm playing video games versus when I'm doing nothing? And I honestly think the reason is because I am creating more metabolic off products that my body is trying to get rid of. And I think water helps with that in the process. I'm not entirely sure. I could be completely wrong on this. But I did notice a weird thing, specifically the fact that I am more thirsty when I am more focused. So I thought that was sort of interesting, and I drink more water when I'm more focused. or something along those lines. I thought that was interesting. Thought I might as well share that. I don't necessarily know the scientific reasoning behind it, but that's my thought, anyways. Something to do with metabolic off products. So yeah, thought that might explain something.
Right now, but to keep it really simple, you're causing dehydration, and you're also spiking fructose content, which that's a completely different video. That just has to do with glycation. Glycation is not a good thing, by the way. If you want to go see what Alzheimer's looks like, or any of these people who have serious brain problems like that, they are the best examples of extremely high amounts of advanced glycation end products. Even look at my my video on, I think it's like why veganism doesn't work. It's a review video. You can literally see adult fruitarian. The guy can't speak. He can't even form.
But for that, you would have to prove it, because I think the fruitarians getting Alzheimer's is not because of the sugar, it's because of them being malnourished. They don't have anything else. All they eat is fruit. They're fruitarians. They're lacking so many vitamins and nutrients. Of course your brain is not gonna work if you only eat fruits. But to blame it on fruits alone and say that that causes it, even if you eat a lot of brain, raw fat, all of this, that's nonsense. That's so weird, no?
Coherent sentences.
Once again, I said it's, I thought I explained this before, but it's basically a video, a GOTUS review video where I see this adult fruitarian guy, and I see GOTUS show this adult fruitarian guy, and this guy literally could not form coherent sentences. And I look at that and I go, okay, this is like the worst of the worst, right? What would that look like with a vegan? And then what would that look like with the carnivore? And if a carnivore isn't having that same problem, then my thought is that if basically I'm comparing, for instance, like carnivore versus fruitarian, and if we compare the carnivore versus fruitarian, and we see that for some reason the fruitarian is just pretty much having Alzheimer's, right, at an incredibly early age, that sort of makes me look at it and go, okay, it's most likely advanced glycation end products. I also I'm pretty sure there was pretty compelling evidence towards advanced glycation end products causing Alzheimer's in the first place. I'm pretty sure there was. I'm pretty sure if I do have that information anywhere, it's most likely in the Real Nutrition Science playlist, but yeah.
He's speaking so slow. He's barely able to form coherent sentences. His speech is so slurred and slowed. It's bad. So hopefully,
yeah, but that's 100%. There's no way that's from eating a lot of fruit. It's because they were malnourished.
I think it's a combination of both. I think it's the advanced glycation end products and the brain basically being unable to heal itself or being unable to do brain stuff. And the reason the brain can't do brain stuff is because it doesn't have the polyunsaturated fat content required, or the fat content for that matter required. So in this case, I think basically what you're doing is when you add, okay, so you're carnivore. Let's say you're eating meat, right? You're eating meat, and your brain is going to be able to repair the damage that happens to it a lot faster, right? Whereas if you're fruitarian, your brain is not able to repair the damage to it, and not only is it not able to repair the damage to it, it's also causing extra damage on top of the damage that it's not able to repair because of these advanced glycation end products. So I think it's a combination of both. But I will say yes, I think he's right. Malnutrition does definitely play part of a role in this.
From just eating the fruits, because they're not getting enough nutrients. Weird.
Yeah. Hopefully you can see why I'm not a big fan of juice.
And this is some honey I bought from market a couple weeks ago. Oh my god, the way I spoke, it was so stupid. I was like resting on the vocal too much. Yeah, I don't really know where I got this honey actually. Yeah. And but I don't think it's raw.
So when it comes to honey,
It is
it's
raw,
basically
it is
the same thing than apple juice. It's basically just fructose, except I guess it doesn't have the fiber in this case. I'm going to assume that it doesn't have the fiber. But for the most part, the main thing about it is that it's just really high fructose content. In fact, it's sort of similar to that of high fructose corn syrup. I never really thought about that. That's a little weird. Maybe I should make a video on that. Yeah. So I really, once again, I don't necessarily think this is healthy.
I think honey can be used as a tool as well when it comes to if you have trouble digesting certain foods, especially milk. I think it's great to add in when you're eating dairy, as it will help it digest more. And it tastes really good. If you can get a non-glyphosate, raw, unheated honey, then yeah, it's good.
Fructose just gets processed straight by the liver, that gets converted into white adipose tissue, and I don't necessarily think on carnivore you need any of this at all. Technically speaking, it's good because it won't raise insulin. I guess it won't raise insulin unless there's high glucose content in it, which is good because fructose doesn't raise insulin. So in that specific sense, it's good, but it's bad because anything that usually gets directly processed by the liver, if it's not like glucose or fatty acid, and it's like fructose like this, it gets directly processed, and I think that whole thing is not good for your liver at all. Your liver basically sees it as toxic, so I'm not a big fan of this. I'm definitely not a big fan of this at all. Oh, and once again, this is just more advanced glycation products. So.
What I do is I use my hands when I eat. This is how you're supposed to eat, obviously. So I just do this, and that's true.
For anybody who hasn't eaten raw meat before, by the way, it's very difficult to chew it in comparison to that of...
What the f*** are you talking about? Raw meat?
It is harder for so many people. I have heard so many people complain about it being harder to chew. There's certain cuts of meat. There are certain cuts of meat where it is easier. But I would say most cuts of raw meat that I have tried and other people that I've asked tried also say it's pretty chewy. That's what I've noticed.
I mean, it depends how tender it is and what cuts you're eating. But raw meat is easy. You can even swallow it whole by how juicy it is. You can never choke on raw meat. Yeah, okay, let's hear what more he has to say.
Cooked meat. Much, much more difficult. So, yeah.
Not true at all. Obviously very thin.
My personal experience, it has. Steak tartare before and after, right? That's what I've noticed.
For most people who start trying to do this, this is very, very difficult for them. Personal experience, I sometimes eat meat raw, but for the most part, I usually have my meat very, very rarely cooked. Very, very rare. It's called blue, I think.
Then you're not a carnivore. No carnivore cooks their meat. We are the only animals who puts their food in fire.
Most likely, yes. And why exactly would this be the case? Probably because, what exactly happened back in history? Most likely, my assumption is parasites, assuming that the Maasai really are dying because of parasites early, as an example, or many animals in nature, by the way, die early because of parasites. I would probably say parasites are probably one of the main reasons why meat would have been cooked back in the past. It's pretty annoying. You're sort of having to do basically like a vetting process of like, am I eating meat that I should be eating, right? Because if you do have a parasite, it will ruin your results. Most likely, anyways, you will experience some pretty uncomfortable symptoms. Especially for that matter, if it's a liver fluke. If it's a liver fluke, you are fucked. If you try to eat meat in the future with a liver fluke, especially 10 years in, you're gonna. That's not gonna be good. That's not gonna be good. Preventing your gallbladder from functioning and basically blocking your gallbladder. Oh, you're so cooked. You are so cooked. That's bad. That is not a good one. That basically means you're going to eat carnivore and you're going to get none of the benefits or none of the results.
Or blue. I have it cooked like that. So, yeah, I basically barely cook it. I like it mostly raw in the middle, or almost completely raw in the middle, and then the outside cooked. You know what's crazy is I've heard that they're literally trying to disincentivize, the government right now over there is trying to disincentivize buying meat by making it like more expensive, or by doing these other like...
Yeah, it was unbelievable how expensive this little package of meat was. And it's Germany. It's not supposed to be a richer country than Norway, right? Because Norway has very expensive meat. And to see the price of that little meat package in Germany, which is supposed to be so much more cheaper, was unbelievable. I believe it was 40 euro per kilo. It was unbelievably expensive. There, I know, we all know why it's more expensive.
Indirect measures. To me, it's crazy. I'm really amazed by that. Like, they're gonna really screw up their population if they do this. But I mean, I guess they have no idea. They probably don't have any idea. I think they're just ignorant. But for the most part, this will definitely screw them up if they end up trying to restrict prices and try to prevent people from buying this. Basically, that'll really cause a lot of problems down the line. As if there's already quite a bit of them. Pretty cool what you can get from Lidl. Now it's Lidl. Oh my god, what the hell?
Yes, Lidl is actually a pretty decent shop, and the fat, as you could see, it was pretty yellow. It was probably grass-fed. So yeah, pretty good.
I've been there. I was at a couple Lidls before. Yeah, because I was in Frankfurt, Germany. So I was also in different other parts, but it was definitely in Frankfurt.
Like, I don't care if it's heated. It says it's heated, but
Yeah, this was pasteurized. Oh my god, I was so fat deficient. But at least I'm honest, you know, that I ate pasteurized milk for the first time. Oh my god. Yeah, this is whipped cream. 30% fat. It was pretty good actually. My gut reacted pretty well to it. Surprised. Because I think when you're that fat deficient, it doesn't really matter if it's pasteurized or not. You're just so fat deficient that the body wants anything that has to do with fat.
I don't know how many degrees. But look how much saturated fat it has per 100 grams.
Pretty good actually.
Like, I
For a
just crave
pasteurized.
so much fat that I really don't know what to do here in Germany. So because I crave
Damn, my skin was so good. Wow. I was much more tanner there too. Of course, it was in August.
raw bone marrow. That's what I've always been eating. That was my fat source all the time. Raw bone marrow and obviously the fat from the steak. I'm trying not to overdo it with this because it's probably pasteurized to death.
When it comes to so he's going for the milk again, or something along those lines. I think it's maybe yogurt. I have no idea. As a general rule, once again, I'm not a big fan of glycation, and this is usually what that sort of stuff has. Not a big fan of it. The whole galactose and glucose thing. I'm definitely not a fan of that. But there is something else I would like to mention about his eating pattern, which might cause some problems down the line, or I can see it anyways.
Explain it.
So the way he's eating, I don't know if you've noticed, but he didn't really have that big of a... So originally at the very beginning here, right? He didn't actually have that much meat. Like, this is not that much, in my opinion anyways. If you've seen what I eat in a day, it's in fact, it's actually more than that. I didn't even put all of the footage. So
But the reason I don't eat that much red meat, especially, is because I don't really eat that much red meat as I used to. Because I have so much stored in my body that I don't really crave it anymore, you know?
Well, I think it's just I don't think it has to do with storing red meat. Like, you don't store red meat. You store like I think it's microbiome related. I think it's microbiome related. So your microbiome, sadly, it can be a good or a bad thing. Bacteria in your microbiome, they'll be like, hey, feed me more, right? And then you end up getting these signals basically to your brain, and then it influences your taste buds, basically, actually neurotransmitters, that basically say, hey, feed me this, right? So let's say like you eat fructose, right? Well, suddenly you will actually like the taste of fructose more and more and more as you have it, pretty much. Same sort of thing with meat, I think. And I think this is pretty important to know because you don't want to be feeding certain bacteria. Certain things you don't want to be incentivizing. So there are some things you do want to incentivize. There are some things you don't want to incentivize. My personal opinion, you don't want to be incentivizing fructose. You don't want to be incentivizing any sort of this sugar kind of stuff. I don't necessarily think that's healthy. I sort of explained my point, I think, on that before. And in doing so, you're you're not necessarily even focusing on the needs of your body at that point. You're actually focusing on the needs of what your microbiome desires rather than what's probably best for your body. So I think like people's microbiome can really affect whether or not they do or don't see sugar as an example as tasty. Because like I personally, I dislike the taste of sugar a lot, like a lot. I have no desire for any sort of honey, any sort of chocolate, any sort of sugar stuff, doesn't matter, right? Anytime there is something every now and then that sadly ends up getting mixed in with the meat and it's sugary, like I will spit it out because of how disgusting it tastes. Like it tastes too sweet. It doesn't taste right. So it's really interesting how much I think of a role the microbiome really does play a role in dictating what you do and don't like the taste of. And by the way, that's basically influencing your taste buds. So you're not even necessarily doing it for the best interest of your body. You're doing it for the best interest of whatever's in your microbiome at that moment. And I just wanted to say that because I found that pretty interesting.
I might crave it from time to time when I haven't eaten it, of course, but my body just wants raw fat right now. So yeah, I feel fat is the most important anyways. People who start out eating this, they eat too little fat and they're never satisfied. They're starving.
I eat a lot, like a lot of meat. And if you're looking at how much he's actually getting right now, so he has, for instance, just looking at this right now, he has steak, milk, apple juice, and honey. There's not a lot of meat. I don't see that much of a fat source. Indirectly, he's also...
Yeah, that's true. And the reason I really didn't crave that much red meat was because I was so fat deficient, because I ate... The only thing I ate before I made this video was basically lean red meat and even liver. I didn't really crave anything else other than fat. And that's why my body is like this now. I don't really, even now, I don't eat that much red meat, maybe once, twice a week. Right now, I just eat a lot of raw dairy, and
I think that's just microbiome stuff related once again. Like, that's how big of a role the microbiome really does play a role in what you do and you don't find tasty, which can really affect it can affect your body. I think you'll see results more down the line, but in his case, I don't know. It depends. It really does depend on how much meat he's eating, and I'd probably say the fructose, the glucose content, and the fat content as a whole. Because once you have that, you'll have the Randall cycle picture in play as well. I mean, obviously, I think he's doing a million times better than most Americans, or most people as a general rule. So he's probably going to be much better off than them, right? It's them compared to him, it's most likely not even going to be close. But yeah.
I try to get as fatty steaks as possible because I'm trying to gain a lot of weight now, and I want to detox the best way possible. Yeah.
Also doing something that's kind of... I definitely can see problems with this in the future. He's eating throughout the day, and you might say, well, it's fine because he's carnivore, right? Well, he's doing a modified version of carnivore because he's having all of this...
I'm eating whatever I crave. It doesn't have to be a religious staple that you have to eat red meat all the time. You can...
I don't think it's just red meat. I just think it's meat. I think you just want to keep the phytotoxin content as low as you can. Keep the other inflammatory signals basically as low as you can. You don't necessarily have to call it carnivore. Just keep the inflammatory signals low. That's basically it. That's what I think. But yeah, I will say, actually, I will agree with him on one point. I think there's a lot of carnivores who are a little bit too religious in that sense. They're too... they're too stuck on the carnivore ideology, thinking it's just meat. When in some instances and in some cases, it is better to not just have only meat. Personally, once again, I think cerule is a good thing. But not only that, you can also get your there's a lot of other things besides cerule for that matter. It's if you are like in pain, as an example, like that's I was gonna say copium, but I'm not gonna say copium because that's a joke. But you're gonna have opiates, right? Opium. So it's by the way from a plant. So just wanted to say that real quick.
If you crave fat and dairy, then eat that. Why force yourself to eat something you don't really need because your body is telling you to not to eat it?
Well, obviously, yeah. It's not just red meat. I mean, I'm saying red meat. Personally, I like the taste of red meat, although I don't necessarily eat it all the time. Like if I'll eat as much red meat as I want for that day, and then afterwards, I just don't eat much more red meat. Or personally, I think recently I've been really into like pork. Certain pork tastes really, really good. But I stick with meat once again. I am not going down the rabbit hole of fructose. No fan of that.
Like I said, right now I eat red meat once or twice a week. I just drink a lot of milk because I have to gain a lot of weight. I feel like I have to gain a lot of weight. And I feel very calm and collected. I feel, in fact, adrenalized when I eat a lot of red meat. I'm sure some of you can understand what I mean. It gives you so much energy to the point that you feel very adrenalized and even anxious.
I don't get the anxious feeling. I get the I want to play League of Legends feeling. That's what I'm in the mood for. I get the feeling of like improvement. Like I just want to like focus and I want to like improve upon something. Like I want to do something productive. Maybe is the best way to put it. But I don't even necessarily think that's from food. I just think that's like the mindset that I have at this point. It's part of it anyways. And the weird part is I don't even look at it as work. I don't even view it as stressful. I just view it as like I guess part of a video game. You just sort of look at it like part of a video game, just like going through a quest, like a relaxing quest, sort of. Weird. I didn't even think about that myself. It was a little weird.
And I just don't crave any meat right now. I think your body goes in periods, how much it wants and what it craves, you know?
This, for instance.
Sort of, yeah. It goes in, I think it's related to your microbiome as one factor, and the second factor is what your body needs to function. So your microbiome will definitely dictate the taste of things, and what your body needs to function will also dictate the taste of things.
This yogurt stuff, right? And in the process, he will raise insulin. But the problem is, once again, the Randall cycle comes into play. If you're mixing fat from the meat with the glucose, in this case, of the dairy, it's not that much, but it is a little bit. And if he's doing this throughout the day over and over and over and over and over again, I definitely see problems with that. I can definitely see problems with that. So whether or not he knows it, I don't know. But that's definitely problems. If it's only 2 times throughout the day, we'll look at the rest of it.
Yeah, then look at the Maasai who mix blood and milk all the time. They eat raw honey. They go to bee combs and eat the raw honey. They eat a lot of raw honey. A lot of fruit also seasonally. What is the problem? This is part of our natural diets.
I don't think so. I don't believe it. Technically speaking, yes, it's part of our natural diet, but I don't necessarily think natural is always the healthiest thing. Once again, I'm part of a min-maxing thing, right? I'm not necessarily always here to be supernatural. I'm here to like min-max certain attributes. One of them is my brain. Because I play video games. I play League of Legends at a challenger level. So that's part of it. Been playing some pretty good League recently, actually. I went 5-0. 5-0 in my placements. So we're being chillin' already. Any league players out there? You know what I'm talking about. I want Riot to release the MMO, for Christ's sake. Riot, release the MMO, goddammit. All right, I'm trying to play these games. You know, that's my enjoyment. Definitely video games. I think video games are really, really good. Really, really, really good source. Make you think. Strategic ones make you think. Non-strategic ones are just, they're chill. They're still chill. They're fun. They don't make you think in the same way, but they actually will still improve some form of your cognitive function in most cases, or like the way you perceive information sometimes. So,
Not this carnivore cooking meat and forcing yourself not to eat sugar.
Eventually.
I'm not forcing myself. I just genuinely don't desire it. Like I feel like I'm gonna throw up if I eat it. Once again, I think the microbiome does a great job at telling you, hey, I want to eat this, I want to eat that. And it doesn't necessarily mean it always is healthy, by the way. I think the microbiome sometimes should not be telling you, hey, I want to eat this, I want to eat that. Because it will play tricks on you. Like sugar plays a trick on you. I think sugar is probably one of the best examples of playing tricks on you. Definitely a no bueno. I am no fan.
If it's only 2 times that he's doing this, then maybe it's not that big of a deal. I don't necessarily know the time frame in between as well. If you're interested, you can check out my ketosis video. I think it's called like efficient ketosis, or I called it efficient ketosis in my editing for my editor, but I can't remember what I called it. Yeah, so I think it's ketosis heals the heart and brain. Yeah, that's what it was. So if you're interested, you go check out that video and you sort of understand where I'm going here when it comes to like why it's really important, I think, to be in ketosis. And I think in this case, he actually isn't in ketosis. He is getting a lot of the vitamins and minerals and all this other stuff, not inflammatory problems that he's dealing with, but he is dealing with that, which I think will be a problem down the line. But it won't be as prominent because he's definitely not spiking it as much as other people do, I think, but he is spiking it a little bit. He is biking in Germany, I guess.
I will say right now, because I did my sunlight video, and I did a little bit of my sunlight research, as well as my self-experimentation. I don't like sunlight. It didn't necessarily look like there's much sun right there, because if you don't know, Germany has
But he is spiking it.
no sun whatsoever, almost. Germany's cloudy. That's,
He is.
yeah, it doesn't necessarily look too sunny there. But yeah, I'm no fan of sunlight. I'm going to say that, so come fight me. But I don't like sunlight because of the UVA radiation. You can get the benefits of sun without having to expose yourself to the sun. And just because, by the way, the sun feels good, just because there's a lot of these things that like feel good doesn't necessarily mean it always is good, right? There's a lot of these things where it's an adaptation process. So feel like this nitric oxide release or whatever, or this endorphin argument that I heard people come at me with when it comes to sunlight. It's like, oh, what about nitric oxide and endorphins, right? Just because something feels good does not mean it is good. Opium feels great. Being drugged feels great. Doesn't necessarily mean it is great. Same thing with sugar and chocolate and apple juice, as the thing he drank before. It's fructose. It sure feels great, tastes great, most likely, in his case anyways, I guess. But it doesn't function great. I personally, once again, that's my sort of thing. Just saying. I'm no fan of sunlight. It ain't healthy. I think you can get the benefits of sunlight without having to get the downsides of it. You can get the benefits of the UVB without having to expose yourself to the UVA.
Biking in Germany, I guess. I did a lot of biking in Germany myself, so. Raw eggs? Yeah, okay. Maybe his eggshells over there are harder. They probably are, because I know that if the chicken is better, give it better nutrition.
That's true, actually. It means that the chicken got enough nutrients.
When it comes to protein content, definitely very, very high. Highest that you can possibly get. There's literally nothing with the higher amino acid content, probably besides whey protein, but...
What do you mean? Red meat is superior to eggs. Red meat has all the amino acids. Eggs are lacking. Eggs don't have all the amino acids. What are you talking?
Essential amino acids, yeah. It's related to the amino acid profile. I made it in my Real Nutrition Science playlist. I can't remember the video, but if you find it, it's like a guy doing pull-ups or something like that, right? And it's a thumbnail, yeah. And then me looking at him, and I was like, something like this. I think it was like that. That's the highest protein content, and it's because the amino acid content is most what's the term? Balanced. It's related to because just because you have a lot of amino acids doesn't necessarily mean you use them, right?
Talking about red meat has all. Okay.
Not really much nutritional value out of that besides the amino acid content. Otherwise, though, I think that this is a much better option. I think eggs are definitely the way to go. Really, basically, they have every single thing that you need. So definitely very, very healthy.
Yeah, they have every nutrient, but not every amino acid. Red meat has absolutely every.
No, I'm pretty sure it has every amino acid. Pretty sure it has every single essential amino acid. I mean, I made the video on it. Like, I swear to God, I thought I had the papers on it as well. Anyways,
Fatty red meat. I'm not talking about lean red meat. I'm talking about fatty, grass-fed red meat. It has literally everything you need.
But once again, this is throughout the day as a carnivore. And like if he mixes in that milk over and over and over again, I can definitely see problems occurring. But if he isn't mixing in the milk or all this other stuff, then I think it might be. I don't think that it'll be as big of a deal.
Wow. Schmeckt gut, dieses Butter.
Ja.
Gutes Qualität.
It's good quality, really.
Schmeckt so süß.
This was actually really good butter. And bio is organic, I'm sure. So this was organic pasteurized butter, but I gotta say it was actually really sweet. It was very good, very yellow for a butter. I know it probably doesn't look that yellow in this video, but in person it was pretty yellow. And yeah, it actually was pretty good butter for it to be pasteurized.
Yeah. So this is, I think that's healthier. I think this is a better option in terms of your dairy. If you want, like, this is, I wouldn't necessarily consider butter dairy as much.
But raw butter is actually a really good way of getting enough raw fat. If you're eating a lot of raw meat and it doesn't have enough fat, eating raw butter with it is super good. And you can eat it with meat. It's not that it will ruin your digestion, because you can't mix milk with meat, because it's red meat is acidic and milk is alkaline, right? But with butter, it's different. You can.
I haven't heard of this acidic versus alkaline sort of argument. I think the acidic, they made. I'm no fan. I'm no fan of that because it's like. I don't really think that matters too much. Like it doesn't. As long as you're not doing it throughout the day, right? I mean, let's hear it out.
Actually mix it, which is really nice.
And this is because the dairy content in butter is much lower than that of like yogurt or milk or anything of that sort. So I would say this is probably better, personally. This is where you will get your energy, though, because you're basically getting your fatty acid from this. So, yeah. Overall, I'd say pretty healthy. Yeah, that's about it. Oh, okay, he's drinking something else. Apple juice or what? Apple juice again?
Yeah, it's the apple juice again. But keep in mind, I was very fat deficient, and
I think I'm trying to read what's on the side of it. I can't read this.
that's why I was craving so much sugar also. Yeah.
What is this? I have no idea what this is. But if it isn't water, yeah. If it isn't water, then I wouldn't really recommend it. Once again, if you're looking for optimal, like really, really optimal nutrition, then just stick with water. There's really no need to add anything else, especially not coffee, tea, juice, or soda. Definitely wouldn't recommend those. Those are definitely dehydrating. You don't want your water being stolen or your amino acids, in this case your protein, being stolen, because that's not helpful. So this is bloodsteal. I think what he eats is actually pretty good overall, definitely. He's sort of similar to Anvo in this case, where he does add in honey, for instance, and I wouldn't necessarily recommend in honey. I wouldn't recommend any sort of like glycation events occurring. I'm not a big fan of glycation.
I just want to say that you have to eat whatever you crave, you know?
Partial truth. Once again, I don't fully agree with that. I think the only reason I don't agree with that is because of that the fact that bacteria influence whether or not you do or do not crave certain things. So, like if I were to eat, like a really good example right now is if I eat sugar right now, I despise the taste of it. It's absolutely disgusting to me. It's too sweet. But if I had sugar 7 years ago. We'll go 7 years ago. If I had sugar 7 years ago, then I'd be like, holy shit, I can't get enough of the taste of this, right? So it's like really interesting. Like, where did it happen? Where did it all change? Where did it all go wrong, right? Well, where did the change from actually having some desire to having literally no desire whatsoever, and in fact being repulsed by it, come about? Once again, I think it's because of the bacteria. The bacteria, it's all neurotransmitter stuff. I mean, if they really are able to influence taste receptors, that's a pretty big deal. That's a really, really, really big deal.
Even if you don't have raw fat available to you, you should just try to get as much fat as you can from raw dairy. And it's especially good if you're very skinny. I think raw dairy definitely has its uses and it's useful. It's a tool. And it's a good way of getting enough raw fat in your diet because we're not getting enough raw fat in our diets daily. So, yeah. Thanks for watching, guys.
This guy seems a lot like a goddess. This guy seems a lot like a goddess. So, yeah. Anyways, I thought, there you go. That's my reaction to a reaction video. Absolutely insane. I never thought we'd come to this, but here we are, YouTube. I'm reacting to reaction content of reaction content. It's fucking ridiculous. But it's funny, I gotta admit. It is funny. It's reactionception. Anyways, thanks for watching, guys. Hope you learned something valuable. If you did, like, share, sub, comment down below. It really does help the channel grow. Once again, if you want my Cerule, go get it down from my link below so I can get it for free myself. I also said, once again, I use it under certain conditions. I don't necessarily think you should always use it, especially if you're having problems, which you cannot fix using Cerule. It will just mask the symptoms because of how effective this stuff is, how damn effective this stuff is. So, yeah. I'll say that. And there you go. That's my reaction to a reaction video. I'll see you in the next one.